Forget about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the t-shirt in the video. Specifically this one. Selalu jalan-jalan. Why talk about it now? Because I'm on my way to pick up my laundry, and amongst that laundry will be 3 more of this very shirt. Selamat sore, Bu. Mas. Laundry siap? Laundry siap?
Siap.
Berapa harganya? 20. Okay. Mas, you're filming now. 20.
Tinggal di mana?
Tinggal di mana? Raja Pula, Rumah Made.
Ini selatan.
3 menit.
Oh, 3 menit
lurus
ke kanan.
kiri. Okay. Oh, not that one. This one and this one. Makasih. Okay, sempurna. Makasih, Mas. Okay, so that's laundry sorted for $2. There was a lot of it actually. You pay via the kilo. Always check what the price of that is before you leave your laundry with them, because it hasn't happened in a while, but I've had some surprises when I come to pick it up and they just make up some random price. So that was 70 cents, 7,000 per kilo. So, selalu jalan-jalan, what does it mean? And what's the backstory? It literally translates to always going for a walk or always walking around in a more modern context, and with a motorcycle on there. It's more about always exploring on a motorbike. But in a broader context, it's about always exploring, always looking for new experiences, always learning. And that's good advice for travel. The backstory is I was staying at an accommodation, and you know, sometimes you need to deprogram your hosts because they're so used to a certain kind of person coming who wants to tick the things off the list of the destination that they're at, and they'll suggest to you, okay, so here's where you go to the waterfall, here's where you go to the temple, here's where you get a good pizza, here's where you get a good burger. And I was staying at this accommodation for quite some time, and there was a staff member who would come and check in each day to see if everything was okay. And he came at the end of the first day and asked me what I'd been doing. And I said, oh, jalan-jalan. And he said, oh, okay. He came at the end of the second day to check that everything was okay and asked what I had done that day. And I said, jalan-jalan. Third day, you know what happens. And I said, jalan-jalan, and he said, selalu jalan-jalan. And I didn't know what selalu meant at that point. And he said, always. And I thought, that'd be cool on a t-shirt. And here we are. Right, what's on the agenda? I want to get to the beach, Pantai Antap. I got there yesterday right on sunset and didn't have much time to explore. So that's precisely what I'm going to do now. Hey, we're at the beach, and based on the old bushman's trick of extending the hand and the fingers, counting the fingers between the sun and the horizon, I would say that we have about 2.5 hours of light left for exploring. And also I got here around about sunset yesterday, so I know what time it goes down. It's pretty windy, and not really wanting to talk too much about the mechanics of how YouTube gets made. The windsock on the mic is going to get a workout today. We'll see how it goes, because without it, any of this exploring may be unlistenable. It is overcast, but it is also sunny. Well, you know, there's plenty of UV around, so I got to keep myself protected today. So we'll go for a little wander, hey? And I thought we might chat about something that came up in conversation with a fellow traveler recently about things that one packs that other people might find unusual or extreme. And we also talked about the idea of what I know as a wooby, most people would know as a security blanket. I think we all have that thing that we can't be without. Let's go explore. Well, our first destination for exploration is going to be this rock formation over here. It's very cool, and I'm keen to see what goes on in that archway. There are two reasons why I was thinking about talking about the topic of things that one packs that others may find unusual. Others may find it unusual to have 4 t-shirts of the same print. But the other thing is I was suiting up for this trip. This trip today. And on my, oh my goodness, extreme close-up, I put on my hiking sandals. And probably the most extreme part of my packing is 4 pairs of shoes. I like a hike. I like to explore. You can't explore, particularly the exploring I'm just about to do as I ascertain how I'm going to navigate these rocks. I like to explore, and different situations call for different footwear. Let's do a little bit of rock hopping. So, in a situation where you're going to be walking in water no matter what, a hiking sandal beats a hiking boot any day, no matter how waterproof that hiking boot is, because in a humid climate and then add wet season on top of that, once you get hiking boots wet, you are not getting them dry. And while they remain wet, they start to smell. Once they start to smell, that's a problem for you, and increasingly becomes a problem for anyone in your vicinity. So that's why I like to have this kind of shoe, because it's designed to get wet and it dries super quick. For those learning Indonesian, sepatu can get you by if you want to be talking about shoes. Some sandals. They're my, everyday slopping around kind of footwear. And then I have some sneakers. Now, some people might say that's a bit of a vanity inclusion. I like to go see bands, and I'm not going to see bands in hiking shoes. I'm certainly not going to be grandpa in his sandals, either hiking sandals or regular sandals. And so my sneakers, yeah, look, they're probably an indulgence, but when I've got them, I'm glad I've got them. They're also good for walking around places where the footpaths aren't so great and you've got to do a fair amount of walking. Immediately what comes to mind was the last time I was in Sanur, and footpaths there have been a nightmare, but due to the severe flooding that happened relatively recently, it looks like they've taken the opportunity to really fix them and make them kind of decent once and for all. Rather than keep switching between these lenses, I'm going to do an edit right now. My plans to explore this rocky outcrop here have been utterly thwarted. I don't know if I'd have more luck at a different time of day when the tide was further out, but there really isn't, as I can see it, a way to safely, keyword safely, get up there. Look, not all hope is lost. Let me very quickly just check over here. There looks to be an ever so slight shelf And if I can get onto it, we might be in action. I tell you what though, from past experience, ooh, check out these crabs. Yeah, I tell you what, from past experience, you don't want to go too far and find yourself in a situation where the tide has blocked your exit. This has already got those vibes of one bad decision leading to a situation. I tell you what though, how cool is this? There is still hope that we will make it to the arch. Now, a sensible person would have checked tidal information. A sensible person would stop and check tidal information right now. But I happen to know from being here yesterday, there is zero phone or data signal here. All right, well, one thing I didn't know is that gap there that gets you out to where that archway was, which we can't quite see. That's currently filled with water. I dare say that you can probably get to that at certain times of day though. Let's just have a little look down in this nook. Whoops, holy, that was a slip. A younger me and a single me would have pushed on, but I just had a fairly precarious slip just then that would have then had me carried away into a tunnel to destinations unknown and smashed against rocks. So, common sense is prevailing. And I'm going to go have a look at that over there. Along with the hiking boots and hiking sandals, I also like to have trekking poles, which can be problematic. If I'm traveling with my wife, we're probably going to have some check-in luggage and they can go in there, no problem. But airport security does not like long, metallic, pointy things in your carry-on luggage. So this time around, because I was doing carry-on only, at my first accommodation, I got in touch with them and sent them a link to a set of trekking poles on Tokopedia, which is the Indonesian Amazon, and asked, could they order them for me, pay for them for me, and I'll hook them up with the cash when I arrived. That all went very smoothly. It also means, though, that I won't be able to take them home, but because I bought them from an Indonesian site and they were purchased in Indonesian rupiah, excuse me while I'm distracted, I've got to look at my feet. They were cheap as chips. They were like 15 bucks. The very same trekking poles at a camping store in Australia would be $80 at least. So that worked out cool. I'll give you a little look at where we're headed. A look at that green stuff on the rocks. I can tell you it is super, super slippery, and I'll be glad to be over them. What do you figure these guys are looking for? Permisi, apa bisa berbahasa Inggris sedikit? What are you looking for?
Crab.
Crabs, okay, let's see. Oh, I can see some. For eating? Untuk makanan?
Oh, tidak.
Ah,
Tidak boleh dimakan.
okay. For teman?
Ya.
Not for eating, for a friend. I was trying to pull the word for pet out of my brain, but I know that it's not actually in there. So, friend seemed to get the response I was after. Cows at the beach, not something a lot of us would be familiar with. They look so cute and friendly, but don't forget, even though they're domesticated, they don't need some random coming up and saying, "Hey cows." So I will keep my distance, show them some respect, give the cows some privacy. Mind you, check out that fruit on that tree. Okay, don't freak out, little Bubba. Little Bubba's freaking out a little bit. Look at that thing. Looks positively prehistoric. There's one here on the ground. Let's see if... Oh, that's hard. I thought I might be able to... pull a bit off. Another thing I travel with, which is probably over and above what most people need. Mind you, if you need it, you'd be glad that you did. Because I travel on the bike, I also have a first aid kit. Not a couple of Band-Aids and some antiseptic cream. It's a quality kit with a lot of stuff in there for a lot of scenarios. That is all thanks to my former army nurse wife. And thankfully, we've never seriously needed it. However, having said that, there was a situation at a beach in Amed where a lady really sliced her foot open on some sharp coral, and everyone was there, stood around not knowing what to do. But thankfully, my wife was able to leap into action and give it the care, the immediate care that it needed in that moment. She was able to clean the wound, to disinfect the wound, to bandage the wound in a way where this lady could then get herself to a hospital and get it seriously taken care of. So, back when tweeting was cool, I once tweeted, always carry a hip flask, because it's not always you that needs it. What's the parallel? The lady who needed the first aid kit that thankfully so far we haven't needed. I just realized that while I've been chatting, I've rounded some more rocks and got a little cove here all to myself. Chances of getting around this cove though are nil. And right about now, I'm hungry. So I'm gonna head back to the last beach where there are a couple of warungs there, all selling pretty standard Indonesian fare, not aimed at Westerners, aimed at locals, so it'll be priced accordingly. Let's see what we can nibble on. While I wait for my Bakso, let's talk about security blankets or woobies. A wooby is that thing that if you all of a sudden discover you're without it, you don't know where it is, you freak out. And for me, my wooby is the hair tie. Look, I am a lazy person and have probably spent the bulk of my life, either with super short hair or long hair, both for the same reason. Look at that. Hair done, ready to go. But on a windy day, when I'm eating, and many other occasions, if I don't have that hair tie, I freak out. It used to be lip balm, and I think for a lot of people it still is. Well, that doesn't look too bad, does it? Let's get some spicy sambal on there. For me, the thing that makes a bakso good or bad is the broth. It's not too bad, actually. Sometimes they're crazy salty. Bland you can deal with because you get a whole lot of condiments that you can mix things up with. But these days, and I'm not going to say this is the case, these days when you're going down the main street of a place and there's bakso place after bakso place, a lot of those people are not making their own meatballs. They're getting those from a wholesaler. So there's not much variance in those kind of meatballs, but there is variance in the broth. This one's okay. What is good about it is it's really jam-packed with ingredients. Sometimes there's plenty of broth and ingredients are kind of swimming around in there, but there's plenty of ingredients and plenty of veg too, which I like. You ever have that experience where you breathe in at the same time as you're putting food in your mouth? And I don't know if it's the fumes or what, but some spiciness goes down your windpipe. It's not about the heat. It's about it going the wrong way down a one-way street. I take back what I said about manufactured wholesale dumplings. These are legit. 15,000. 15,000. $1.50 Australian. That's an outrage. That was including the drink. I know the drink's 50 cents. Whew. Who can complain? I've just had a conversation that I've had many, many times. It goes like this. Bit of chit chat until eventually the question, but what are you doing here? Tourists don't come here. Tourists are in Canggu. Tourists are in Ubud. And I simply tell them, selalu jalan-jalan. Benefit of always wearing the shirt. Always gets a smile or a laugh, a nod. And it's an icebreaker. It opens doors. People get it. So on your next trip, what's going to be your icebreaker? What's going to be your door opener? Have a think about that for a second.